With the NBA play-in tournament starting in just about 4 or 5 days, the end of the NBA regular season is just around the corner. Not only will we see the final rankings in terms of the 10 teams on each conference in which that will participate in not only the play-in tournament but the playoffs in general, we also will have the All-NBA and NBA awards that will be coming out later on during the playoffs. In my opinion, this has actually been one of the most competitive seasons in NBA history that we've at least seen in the past handful of years. Especially now, considering it's not just a league in which the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors are going to be going up against each other in the finals every single season. It seems like the level of competition and level of play has been almost never better. With that being said, there are 15 coveted spots amongst the All-NBA first, second, and third team for this season, and it seems like there's anywhere from 20 to 30 guys who really have a good opportunity to make one of these teams. However, like I said, even though there's 20 to 30 candidates for those spots, there are only 15 that can go out to these players, and that probably leaves a list of about 5 to 10 players who have a legitimate gripe with not making one of those teams. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 5 players who are probably going to be the biggest snubs from the All-NBA team, whether it be first, second, or third. They were not part of the 15 guys to get one of those votes, and they probably are the biggest snubs. At the number 5 spot, I have Jimmy Butler, and I mostly have him at the number 5 spot because I feel like out of the 5 guys that I have on this list, he has the best chance of making an All-NBA team. So if I'm wrong in saying that he's not on an All-NBA team, this is kind of my disclaimer for that. However, the reason that he would not be able to make an All-NBA team is not only because of the Miami Heat struggle that happened during the beginning of the year, but also because of the fact that Jimmy Butler missed a majority of games this year. I think maybe at least 20 games. Now, it was due to COVID. Obviously, I'm not going to blame Jimmy Butler for that. However, there's been a current theme along this season in which a lot of people want to knock players, whether it be Joel Embiid or LeBron James or anyone in the league this year, for having those injuries. And if we're going to be doing that, I think the same thing has to be done to Jimmy Butler. At the number 4 spot, I have Zach LaVine. Now, Zach LaVine does not have the same issue that Jimmy Butler had. Zach LaVine has been healthy for a majority of the season for the Chicago Bulls. I think up to this point, he's only missed maybe 10 or less games. And, that hasn't been the problem. The problem hasn't been with his stats either. He's been one of the best scorers in the NBA this year. He's been one of the better players in the NBA this year, as well as an all-star. However, the Chicago Bulls, I think have been eliminated from the play-in tournament at this point, and they're a team that they added another All-Star in Nikola Vucevic at the All-Star break, or at the trade deadline, I should say, and they just never were able to piece it together. They never were able to attain a playoff spot even. It seemed like they couldn't get out of their own way this whole season, so I think that is going to leave him off of the All-NBA rankings. At the number 3 spot, I have Paul George, and I mean, it's not really anything against Paul George. I think this has been a really good bounce-back year, especially considering how the Los Angeles Clippers ended last year with that 3-1 lead being evaporated by the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs. However, he has had a solid season. It's not what we're used to seeing. Paul George has ended up in the MVP conversation before in his career, and this is just not one of those years where he's done that. And it's not something to say that Paul George is a bad player or anything like that. I think he's probably still a top 20, top 25 player. It's just he also shares the court with another possible top 15 player in Kawhi Leonard, who probably in his own right is going to make the All-NBA team. So I just don't think that, with what Paul George is asked to do, he's not really asked to do the exact most for that Los Angeles Clippers squad. Throw on the fact that he does miss games from time to time, so that does hurt him as well, and that's why I think he'll be left off the All-NBA list. At number 2, I have Kyrie Irving. I think it really is just going to come down to the fact that Kyrie has not played enough games for the Brooklyn Nets, and even in the games that he does play for the Brooklyn Nets, I just don't think that he's one of the guys that makes the team go in terms of you look at the guys also on the court named James Harden or named Kevin Durant. They're really the 2 guys who have the best chance of not only making an All-NBA team, but they're the 2 guys that any other opponent is probably going to be scheming for and trying to stop as much as possible. Kyrie Irving is the 3rd option for that team, and I think that, as well as the fact that he's missed a bunch of games this year, will lead him to be off of this list. Now, the number 1 player who I think is going to be left off the All-NBA team, and really this is going to be the guy who I think had the best season out of any of these 5 guys that I mentioned, or he's probably going to be the biggest snub when it comes to, when you compare his numbers to some of the other guys that made it. You're going to kind of wonder why he did not make an All-NBA team, and that's De'Aaron Fox. And it sucks to say because I don't think De'Aaron Fox has missed a lot of time this year for the Sacramento Kings. He's had a career year in terms of his scoring. He's done great defensively like he always has. He's been a great facilitator as that point guard. It's just the Sacramento Kings are a really bad franchise. They're a really bad team. So it's really going to be hard for anybody to, actually vote De'Aaron Fox as a All-NBA team member without really bringing up the fact that their team has been really bad. Their team has been really bad ever since De'Aaron Fox has been there. It's not that their team was bad because De'Aaron Fox has been there. It's just they've never been better than bad since he's been there. So I think that's really going to be the final factor in terms of leaving him off of that list for many people. Now, I do want to give one honorable mention. This is a guy who I do actually think is going to make the All-NBA list. I really wanted to leave him off, but I feel like at the end of the day, when I actually just looked at it, and I also just watched the Trailblazers game against the Phoenix Suns, so I couldn't leave Devin Booker off the All-NBA team. I wanted to kind of go with the narrative that because of the season that Chris Paul is having, because of the emergence that DeAndre Ayton has had lately, and because of just the overall great play of the Phoenix Suns lately, I wanted to leave Devin Booker off for that reason. But at the same time, he's probably either the number one or number two player on the best team in the Western Conference, at least record-wise. And I think that alone is going to put him on the All-NBA list. With all that being said, that's going to be the video from me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a like. If you didn't, make sure you leave a dislike. Any feedback from you all at this point is so much appreciated. You don't even understand. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.